Hi Lancers, this video is going to take you through how to plan for your Canada paragraph. This plan is called a STAR plan. You've probably seen it in English before. You have room for kind of an intro in your topic sentence. You have STAR ideas and details to go with them. And at the bottom, you have a C for your conclusion. So if you spend time doing a good plan, it is going to help you create a very well organized paragraph that has everything in it that you need. So this is a great way to start. Put some effort into it and it will pay off with a good product. So I want to start by on the back, you can flip this over and you will see some helpful hints. Let's just start by reading the prompt. The prompt is to describe the climate of Northern Canada and explain how it affects the people living there. And you need to specifically discuss the population, transportation, and food. So it's really asking you to do two different things. One is to describe the climate of Northern Canada, and then the second is to explain how it affects life there, specifically these three items. Okay, so in looking at the STAR plan, you have 3 stars. And I want you to think, what do you think these 3 stars should be? What are the 3 things that we mainly need to discuss in this paragraph? Maybe pause the video and think about it for a second. What do you think our 3-star ideas will be? So hopefully you kind of came up with that the 3 things you're supposed to talk about is how climate affects population, transportation, and food. So I think maybe the first thing we'll do in our STAR plan is to fill out our 3 big STAR ideas. So for the first star, you can write population, the second star, transportation, and the third star is food. Go ahead and pause the video and fill out your 3 stars. Okay, so now that we have those filled out, let's talk about this first part. Now we're going to work our way kind of from the top to the bottom. So the lead, if you're not familiar with what a lead is, the lead comes before a topic sentence. It gives background information. It sets the scene. Sometimes it's a hook to draw your reader in. For this project, I think it makes sense for our lead to describe the climate. And then after that, the rest of it talks about how the climate affects life there. So for your lead, you are going to describe the climate in 1 or 2 sentences. So what you need to do is you need to turn to the page in your notebook where you collected notes about the climate and look at the information you have. Now, if I'm only writing 1 or 2 sentences about climate, I might not use everything that I have, but you want to pick information that you think would help the reader understand what the climate is like in Northern Canada. You don't have to use all of your information though. So pause the video and take a look at what you have and maybe think about 1 or 2 different bullet points that you want to use for your lead. So let me show you what I came up with. So I looked to my notes and I came up with these 2 things. I wanted to include here that the land is tundra, which is cold, dry, long winters and short summers. And I partially include that because I need to use the word tundra, and I figured this could be a good place to do it. It could also go elsewhere though. And then my second piece was that in some parts, it may be freezing for all but a few weeks of the year. This first bullet point kind of describes it in general, and this one gets a little bit more specific by telling the reader that it is below freezing almost all year long. So look over your notes, and if you haven't yet, pick the information from your notes, the bullet points that you think help best describe the climate in Northern Canada. Once you're done writing those in, unpause the video, and then we'll talk about the topic sentence. All right, so on the back of your paper, there are some tips for the topic sentence. You definitely want to look at this. So the topic sentence tells the reader what you're writing about. And you can do this by restating the prompt in the form of an answer. That's probably the simplest way. So a lot of your words can come right from the prompt here. Now, just be aware that in order to have a good lead and topic sentence, kind of an intro to your paragraph, there are some words that must be in the topic sentence or lead. So for example, Northern Canada and climate must be used in the lead or the topic sentence. You've got to let the reader know what part of the world you're talking about, and this is about the impact of climate on the way people live. So these two words must be in your topic sentence or lead. As a bonus, if you want to have a more specific topic sentence, you could also include the words population, transportation, and food. So think about, you have this kind of next to you. As you go and you look at your intro, what do you think your topic sentence would be? Pause and think about that. What are you writing about here? And you can go to that prompt and pick out things that will help you. How would you answer this question? So pause and think about that. Okay, coming back, topic sentence. This is not in a complete sentence, but I just put what my topic sentence will kind of say. And then when I write it out in my paragraph, I'll put it more into complete sentence. But at minimum, I'm telling the reader that the climate affects the way people live. So I'm going to be talking about Northern Canada, describing the climate here, and then telling them that this climate affects the way that people live. Maybe you found a way to include population, transportation, and food. So I took that right here from the prompt. We're explaining how climate affects the people living there. Okay, so if you haven't already, pause again. Make sure you get something written in for your topic sentence, some sort of statement about what you're going to write about. When you're done with your lead and topic sentence, you can start the video again and we'll talk about your star ideas. So the last required step for your plan is to fill in the details or the evidence that goes with each of your star ideas. So let's start with population. You're going to want to get out your notebook and turn it to the page where you collected all your notes about population. Go ahead and do that. And as you're going through and doing your plan, you're hopefully seeing how collecting well-organized research notes, a page for each topic, is going to help you quickly do your plan. You're not searching for information on a bunch of different pages, but you can turn right to this population page and you have all your notes about population written there. So again, you might have more notes collected than you're going to use, and that's fine. But what I want you to do is look over your notes and decide which ones you are going to use to explain to your reader how the climate affects the population living there. Keeping in mind that population density is one phrase that you need to use in your project. So maybe get out a highlighter if you want, or use a pencil to put little stars. Look at your evidence. Which evidence do you think you're going to use? Pause the video, just take a look. You don't need to write anything yet, but pause the video, take a look at your evidence, and decide what do you think is going to best help you show the reader how climate affects the population. Okay, so once you've kind of thought about it, you're going to list your evidence here. You can list it directly from your notes. I put room for 2 pieces of evidence, but you are welcome to add more. This does not need to be written in complete sentences. It's just kind of an outline. It's up to you how detailed you get. When you are actually writing, you are also welcome to have your notes next to you. So here's what I put. I took that first bullet point that we learned from our first text, that first of all, I said that it's too cold for most people, because that helps me explain how the climate affects the population. And then I also know that the population density is very low. So these are 2 facts that are true. If you have any specific evidence to back this up, this would be a great place to add that. Like, do you have numbers so that you can show how low the population or population density actually is. You could also add those here. So go ahead, pause the video, and I want you to use your notes to fill out the details that you're going to use for population. And then once you're done, you can restart the video. All right, so next step is to do the same for transportation and food as you did for population. You're going to turn to your transportation notes, pick out the evidence that best supports how climate affects the transportation, and then the same for food. If at any point you start looking at your notes and you're thinking, ooh, I don't really remember what I meant by that, or I'm not sure if that's right, you're always welcome to go back to your sources and to check or to get more information. So go ahead, pause the video, work through transportation and food, and then you can resume and we'll talk about the conclusion. Okay, final part of the plan is the conclusion. And I'm going to give you an option here. You do not have to plan your conclusion on your STAR plan. Me personally, unless an idea just kind of pops into my head, I don't usually plan my conclusion. I like to write first, and then I like to read through everything I wrote and think about what would nicely tie up everything. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting focus here. Okay, so this is optional, but let me talk to you a little bit about some possibilities for your conclusion. So if you flip your paper over on the back, a conclusion is a summary statement. It kind of ties everything together, sums it all up usually. So in this case, there's lots of different kinds of conclusions, but in this case, here are 3 different kinds of conclusions that could work for this piece of writing. One, and the most common kind of basic one, is to summarize your paragraph. You restate your topic sentence, but in different words. For this case, you kind of go back to the prompt and you tell the reader what you wrote about. So the topic sentence tells them what you're going to write about. Then you tell them and you prove it. And then you restate that idea of what you were writing about in the conclusion. So basically like your topic sentence, but in different words. A second kind of conclusion would be to give your opinion or your thoughts related to the topic. Maybe you want to leave them with kind of your impressions about what you learned in that final thought. And then a third kind would be to ask an interesting question. And the goal would be to make your reader think more deeply about the topic. So the interesting questions should be related to what we're talking about. But a question can be a good way to like draw your reader in, make them a part of what you're doing, and to make them actively think about what you wrote. So after you're done with that, you have your plan. You do not have to write the conclusion, it's your choice. But once you're done with everything up to that point, you are ready to actually put this into writing. And so you can move on to the next video. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.